Good day, everybody. Today we're going through the next three chapters in Ezekiel. This is the prophecy about the new temple. Now remember, in Ezekiel 37, there are these dry bones, and Ezekiel's prophecy are going to give them hope to go back to the land of Israel. That's what Ezekiel 40 through 42 are about, the rebuilt temple, that God has a plan for them even in the future, that their exile was not the end. And so that is such a joyful thing. We're going to go through the temple and its description here in these next few chapters. As I was studying for this, I felt like I had to become an architect. I took this temple, compared it to the other temple, did all that. I was hoping to do a different type of video for you, but I'm pretty bad at video editing, so I think I'm just going to stick with doing it the regular way. And yeah, so let's get into it. Welcome to Ezekiel chapter 40. Now, Ezekiel chapter 40 is kind of the beginning of the last prophecy in the book of Ezekiel. It's not the last prophecy that Ezekiel has chronologically. It's just the last prophecy that's written in the book, in book order. It was 14 years after the temple was destroyed and the city was taken. Ezekiel is given a vision of the land of Israel, and he sees a structure like a city. Then a man appears, and the man looks like bronze. He held a cord and a reed to measure. And so he instructs Ezekiel to write down everything that he sees and to tell it to the people. The reed is 6 long cubits. Now, a cubit was the distance from the elbow to your wrist. And for most people, the average adult, that's about 18 inches. A long cubit adds the hand breadth on the end of that. That's another 6 inches added to it. It comes to a total of about 24 inches. So this measuring reed that is 6 long cubits long is actually roughly about 12 feet. And that's if this man of bronze was about the average height of a normal person. We don't know that, but and that's because reeds or cubits are not a standardized form of measure. Standard forms of measure didn't come about until the 1600s AD. And so one person working on something, he would actually take his measurement, find out what his cubit was, and create reeds for that. So anybody working on the project would use that man's cubits as their measuring tool. So all the measurements were exact, even if that man wasn't around to be able to do the measurements for a certain part of the building. All right. So he sets Ezekiel on this big platform on the top of a mountain near the city of Jerusalem. And this platform seems to just appear out of nowhere. This platform is amazingly huge. We'll talk about its size a little bit later. But as that happens, Ezekiel says, "And behold, there was a wall." And I wonder if the wall just appears before him. And that's kind of his vision. If you think about certain movies and stuff where there's just kind of a blank canvas and then it opens up and you're like, whoa, the wall just appeared there or something. Maybe that's what it was like. And he's seen this temple appear just as new parts are being described about it. I wonder about that. But the man made of bronze measured the thickness of the wall. It was 12 feet thick. He also measured the height of the wall, 12 feet high. And then he measured the side rooms for the gates. Now, you had a gate going in, but then you had several side rooms that would store things that people would need for the gate, and maybe places to sit and things like that. And so the east gate was measured. And that was another 12 feet. Each of these side rooms there were 6 side rooms within this. Similar to this, there were 2 other gates. There's the north gate and the south gate. Now, if you know anything about the temple, you might notice that something's a little different here. In the original tabernacle, there was only one entrance, and that entrance was to the east, hence the first gate mentioned. But if you read about Solomon's temple, you'll know that there was one gate or one entrance or gate that was on the east, but then there was also an entrance from Solomon's temple. And you could either come in through Solomon's temple or you could come in through there. But Solomon's temple, that was reserved mostly just for him. So this gate was measured, and they had all the side rooms. But the east gate is a very special place. We'll talk about it a bit later as we go through things. But just keep in mind that there are now 3 different entrances to this temple structure. All right. After he's shown the east gate, he's also shown the outer court. And the outer court is huge. Along the outer wall, there are 30 chambers. And those are chambers for storing different things for the temple, let's say for a rainy day, anything like that. The outer court was 100 feet by 200 feet across. I think I have that measurement right, or 200 cubits by, and it is 2/3 the length of a football field. Now, if you look up the structure of Solomon's temple and look at the length of it, all of Solomon's temple would be able to fit just within this outer court. And this outer court is new. Now, thinking about the temple, God never gave instructions exactly on how to build the temple. He gave instructions on how to build the tabernacle. And so Solomon's temple is actually built based on the tabernacle structure. And then as we get into Ezekiel, God finally gives instructions for the building of a temple. And this temple has some additional elements. The first is this outer court. Now, in the tabernacle, as well as in Solomon's temple, there was a courtyard, but there was not an outer court. This outer court is a special place. And we'll learn later in Ezekiel, as well as in Revelation, that outer court is given over to the Gentiles. Jesus actually goes to the outer court, and that's where he ties a whip of cords and knocks out the money changers and everything, because it's supposed to be a place for Gentiles to come and pray. It's supposed to be a house of prayer, a way for people to come and be close to God, even if they're not the Jews or God's chosen people. This outer court is a very special place, and it turns out that the models of the future temples, there are 2 future temples after this. There's the post-exilic temple. That's the temple that's built during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah. And then there's Herod's temple, and both of those are built according to miniaturized kind of instructions from this prophecy. And so he's shown this outer court. After he's shown the outer court, the Lord shows him the north gate and the south gate, and then brings him into the inner court. Now, the inner court is the same kind of court that was in the original tabernacle, as well as in Solomon's temple. In the inner court, that's where you would offer the sacrifices. That's where you would give your sacrifices to the Lord. That's where they had the altar of burnt offering. That's where they would wash and everything like that. There would be the basins. So if you looked at any of the previous temples, you would be able to see that. Finally, we have the inner court, which is really just a 250-foot square. Finally, we have the size of the inner court. It's a 200-foot square. So that's a total of 4,000 square feet altogether for the inner court of the temple. That's a pretty big court. And then you have the outer court, which is much, much bigger. Okay? Rather than being washed in basins specifically, there were even chambers in this inner court where you would wash the sacrifices. And with that said, we're done with chapter 40. We're going to go on to chapter 41, 42, and 43. I think I've been saying 42. All right. In Ezekiel chapter 42, Ezekiel is given a look at the measurements and each of the different parts of the temple proper. Now, we have the whole temple area. Oftentimes, we kind of think of it as the Temple Mount. There's the outer court, there's the gates, those are the entrances to it. There's the inner court, and the inner court has 3 different gates there. And then there's the temple proper, and the temple proper is very similar to the tabernacle and Solomon's temple. It has the most holy place, or the Holy of Holies, and then it has the holy place. Now, the Holy of Holies is a very, very special place. That's where the Ark of the Covenant is supposed to be. The high priest is able to go into the Holy of Holies 1 day a year during the Day of Atonement. And there's a very special situation for when the high priest goes in there. The holy place is the place for the priests. The priests would go in there and they would give the showbread. They would light the menorah or light the candles, and they would go into this place and give the showbread and everything like that. Altogether, this temple or this tabernacle was supposed to represent the throne of God. And it's a reflection of the true throne in heaven. And so we get to see a lot of glimpses as to what the true throne looks like by just looking at this temple. And so Ezekiel is taken into the inner temple, and first he's taken to the most holy place. Ezekiel is a priest, so during the setup and everything, the priests were able to go in there, but whenever it was all set up, only the high priest was able to go in there 1 day a year to make atonement for the people. So the most holy place is roughly a 20 cubic by 20 cubic size. It's really a 40 by 40 foot space. And in that space is the mercy seat as well as the Ark of the Covenant. The mercy seat rests on top of the Ark. And 1 day a year, the high priest is to go and put blood of the sacrifice of atonement upon the mercy seat and then come back out. So, that is how big it is. The temple wall itself, just like the walls on the outer temple, it is 12 feet thick. It has 3 stories to it, and the temple actually rises or gets wider as it goes up. And then Ezekiel is given a glimpse of the holy place. The holy place is kind of where the most holy place is a square. The holy place is more of a rectangle. It is an 80 feet by 40 feet structure. And altogether, the temple itself is about 150 feet by 150 feet, with a little bit extra space out there for the stairs going up to it. The open area between the temple and the temple wall in the back of the temple was 150 feet square as well. So after this, he's shown the vestibule, or the entrance to the temple, and he sees the designs of the pillars, and they look like cherubs with 2 faces, a man and a lion. And finally, he describes what the doorposts look like in the most holy place. They are palm trees. It seems like the Lord loves having those palm trees there, and they're carved into many different places. So in Ezekiel 42, we get to see the inside of the temple proper. The final main part of the temple is around the outside. Now, there's an outer wall to the temple, but along with that outer wall, I mentioned there were 30 chambers. And so Ezekiel goes out behind the temple and sees different chambers as well. Now, there are chambers to the temple itself, and they kind of went outside to the sides of it, as well as main chambers that were attached to the outer wall. There were 30 chambers that were attached to the outer wall, but these other chambers went outside of the temple, and as they went up, unlike the temple, which got bigger as it goes up, these get smaller as they go up, and it's 3 stories high of different chambers. Finally, after seeing all of this, seeing the chambers, seeing all of those different things, the angel takes him out of the temple and measures the entire temple structure. Altogether, the temple structure is 1,000 feet by 1,000 feet, or 1,000,000 square feet. This is huge compared to the other 2 places, the tabernacle and Solomon's temple. The tabernacle was approximately 11,000 square feet, And then when Solomon built his temple, he built it much bigger, about 5 times bigger. It was 50,000 square feet. This temple structure is 1,000,000 square feet. Now, as far as I understand, both of the temples that were built after this, they followed the plans for this a little bit, but they were never that big, because it's kind of impossible to build something that big on the Temple Mount where the temple is supposed to be built. And so this looks like a structure that is built specifically by God for the people. And that's where Ezekiel 43 comes into play and where it talks about things. All right, and after all this, we get to Ezekiel 43. Now, Ezekiel 43 is really special because it's after the temple is all measured. What does the Lord have to say about it? And that's really cool. With the new temple measured, the glory of the Lord returns to the temple. Remember, back in Ezekiel chapter 10, the glory of the Lord left the temple. The Lord was done with the people of Israel before the exile. He left. He hated the abominations going on in the temple. He hated the wickedness in the temple. And so he chose to leave the temple. And the glory of the Lord left, and it went east out of the temple. And so here the Lord is coming back to the temple. The glory of the Lord returns to the temple. And of course, he returns through the east. Keep that east part in mind, especially for the next video. But then the Lord speaks. This temple is his temple, and it's where he will dwell with the people forever. The people will no longer defile his name as they have done. Then he instructs Ezekiel to describe the temple to the people so that they would be ashamed of their iniquities and seek to do it. Just consider that twofold thing. The glory of the Lord returns to the temple. What hope that would inspire in the people of Israel during their exile. We feel rejected by the Lord. We feel hated by the Lord because of the wickedness that we had gone through. But his plans with us are not over yet. And he gives them direct plans for the temple, and saying that there will be one time whenever he dwells with his people forever. I just love that idea. And finally, in this chapter, the Lord gives instructions for the altar of sacrifice and how big it will be. It's a 12 cubit by 12 cubit square, 24 feet huge altar. And then he gives instructions on how to consecrate it. Because even these earthly things built, they need to be set apart. They need to be made holy. And so it takes 7 days to consecrate the altar, to separate out the altar for service. So just keep in mind the joy that this would give to the people of Israel in exile. He's not done with the people. The temple's not complete. He's still not done with them. As I read this, I think, man, this temple has not been made yet. So God is not done with his people. He's not at the point where he's going to dwell with his people forever, but he's getting there. The future is going to be more grand than the past. The past temples were just small compared to this one. This one is 20 times as big as Solomon's temple. That's how huge it is. All right. So what do you think? Well, for me, I think that this temple is going to be built by the Lord in his 1,000-year reign here on earth whenever he returns. You may think differently. That's perfectly fine, and I'm happy to be wrong about it. But I think that that's what this whole temple looks forward to. I can't wait for the Lord to dwell with his people forever. I love that he dwells inside us because of what Christ has done. Put your hope and trust in Christ, and walk with him as you continue to go. Have a good day, everybody.